have the pleasure of meeting Dr. James Ireland, who's with the state firefighters at the airport today. Happy you could be with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Ireland, very much for taking the time with your dog to sit and help us understand what the firefighters at the airport are doing. And relative to COVID-19, what can we expect in terms of your actions?
First of all, this cluster of infected individuals in a hospital in China was reported, and that was in a very early January, kind of reported to the world. And I took notice to that, and I actually put it on my Twitter. I don't put much on my Twitter. I'm about a twice-a-year Twitter guy. I mean, unlike others, but I did put that on my Twitter first week in January. I said, we ought to just keep an eye on this. And I alerted my kind of the chiefs and the administration at the airport that, this is something that's in China. It looks like it's very contagious. But at that point, we didn't even know it was a coronavirus. Within a very short time, and remember, this is only 100 days ago, roughly. This wasn't that long ago. But we did learn it was a coronavirus. And we've had experiences with coronaviruses. There's a very benign coronavirus that causes the common cold. Viruses like SARS in 2003 and MERS, which were both coronaviruses that were very, very deadly. Maybe 10% of people who got SARS died. Now, fortunately, that wasn't super contagious, and that kind of died out and didn't become a global pandemic as we saw or as we're seeing with COVID-19. These type of viruses that can escape local regions and become pandemics, and a lot of them are transmitted from animals. So close contact, like they talk about this wet market with these various exotic animals that have these viruses that can jump into humans and then cause a pandemic. So that was about 100 days ago, and we started really looking at people coming from Asia, and the president blocked travel from Asia. But we also knew that people from Asia went to the mainland US. And so we always were aware that because we were being so vigilant with China and the CDC and looking at people coming from Asia, we also knew that people could go from Asia to, for instance, Seattle, and those folks could come to Hawaii. Now that we do have cases in Hawaii, the government, I think, did the very wise and prudent thing in basically doing the shutdown and isolation and blocking travel, knowing that it obviously has been very, very devastating to our economy and also just our way of life. And, just sitting here at home and you're at home doing this interview is kind of how we're doing things now. When we see the news anchors from home and so drastic changes, but necessary. So we didn't repeat what's been happening in New York City, where they're having, unfortunately, something like 600 or 700 people a day die. Now, I know it's a bigger place, but we didn't want that here.
What can we anticipate as we emerge from this? Because there will be a time when this whole virus situation will wane. What can we anticipate in terms of changes at the airport or in changes in our lifestyle?
Well, the great news is that we're only getting a few single-digit cases every day now, which means all these things people have done, which have been hardships for a lot of people, especially the people out of work, have worked. They're working. But obviously, you can't do this forever. You can't stay at home and you can't not work. And so we do, and the government
we can't stop the planes.
Cannot. So we, meaning everyone in Hawaii, the government especially, needs a plan to kind of undo what we've done and do it slowly and prudently. But I think what's going to make things easier, well, number one is once we get a vaccine, I think we're going to be in great shape, because an effective vaccine won't put an end to this, but will really put a big damper on the spread of this disease. But that, from what people are saying, could be 6 to 18 months from now. So that's the long-term future, the vaccine. But in the short term, I think the way you, in my opinion, the way you open things back up is to continue the social distancing, the stuff that's easier to do, and then expand testing, particularly for people who are coming into the state. And I don't think the leadership has quite settled on a method yet. But one thing that comes to mind is if anybody's ever tried to bring a dog into Hawaii, there's certain things you have to do. You have to make sure they don't have rabies, and there's antibody tests, and a vet has to check them and so forth. And the similar kind of thing could be done for humans as this testing becomes more sophisticated, especially the antibody testing. I mean, I could envision someone having to get an antibody test 3 or 4 days before they travel. It's not perfect, but it would rule out not a very recent infection within 5 days, but it could rule out an infection that's a little older than that. And then when they get here, perhaps they could get another test or have a shorter amount of quarantine because they got that test before they came. And you basically invite people here who are COVID free and have a mechanism to filter that. And knowing no mechanism is perfect, but that would be one way, in my opinion, on quote, opening things up. And then I think hopefully everybody just reconnecting with things that are important at home and spending more time at home. I think as negative as it is that we have to do it, there's a huge positive. I've enjoyed playing cards with my family and busting out board games. And so I hope we can capitalize on that since we're stuck at home anyway.
Thank you, Dr. Ireland, very much for sharing your thoughts. And I hope that you will be on the team of decision makers in the future who will help us protect ourselves with the visitor industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
And thank you to viewing audience for tuning in. You've had the opportunity to listen to Dr. James Ireland with the state firefighters at the airport. Mahalo.